Welcome, dear listener, to another enchanting tale brought to you by Snooze Tale Studio. Tonight, we invite you to immerse yourself in a world where dreams come alive and the peace of the night is guarded by an extraordinary hero. As you settle into your most comfortable space, let the soothing sounds of the night wrap around you like a soft blanket. The gentle hum of the stars, the whisper of the wind through the trees, and the soft rustle of dreams. Each moment calls you to slip into a deep, restful sleep. But tonight, there's more. In the realm between wakefulness and slumber, we meet Lena, the nighttime sentinel. Her mission is one of deep responsibility, guarding the dream world from the shadows that seek to disturb the peace of our nightly rest. Her journey is filled with wonder, danger, and the quiet strength needed to protect the most sacred space of all, our dreams. So, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and join Lena as she begins her watch over the tranquil night, ready to face the unknown that threatens to disturb the realm of sleep. May this story guide you into a peaceful rest and remind you of the magic that exists in every dream. Once upon a time, in a quiet village tucked away between the hills, there was a soft, constant hum of life. The days were long and filled with the steady rhythm of human work, laughter, and the gentle sounds of nature. But as the sun began to set and the sky turned to shades of purple and orange, a magical transformation occurred. The village would grow still, and the only sounds that remained were the whispers of the wind and the occasional call of a distant owl. The world would breathe, settling into a peaceful slumber, save for one. Lena had always been the nighttime sentinel. She wasn't a soldier, nor was she a protector of any great kingdom. Instead, she was a guardian of the dreams that the village's children and adults would slip into each night. Though the villagers knew her only as a figure who wandered the dark streets with the stillness of midnight, Lena's role was crucial in ensuring that the dreams remained peaceful and the night uninterrupted by fear or bad visions. It was a gentle calling, one that found her naturally. From the moment she was a child, Lena had always felt a deep connection to the nighttime. While other children would feel restless in the dark, she would lie awake in her bed, watching the stars twinkle and listening to the silence that wrapped around the village like a warm blanket. And as she grew older, she realized that she was never truly alone during these quiet hours. The village was surrounded by ancient trees, their boughs heavy with years of wisdom and secrets. At the heart of the woods stood a grand oak, the oldest tree in the village, said to have been planted by the first settlers. From there, Lena could feel the pulse of the forest. It wasn't just the pulse of the earth beneath her feet or the wind blowing softly in the leaves. It was something far older, something that connected all dreams, both the peaceful and the restless. On nights when the moon hung low in the sky, casting its soft glow over the land, Lena would make her way to the oak tree. It was her ritual, a moment of connection to the night's magic. She would sit beneath its sprawling branches, her mind clearing as the cool breeze ruffled her hair. She would listen to the whispers of the forest, the language of the night that only she could understand. These whispers were the voices of dreams, those delicate fragments that would drift through the village. And it was there, under the shade of that ancient tree, that the dreamwalkers would visit. Chapter 1: The Call of the Night. It was nearing midnight, and the village had fallen into a deep slumber. The streets were quiet, and the houses, dimly lit by flickering candles, looked as though they were suspended in time. Lena had just finished her evening walk, passing through the village square and checking on the children's windows to ensure that the dreams would remain calm for the night. She had a special gift, one she had inherited from her mother. When she walked the streets, the people would not stir in their sleep, and their dreams would remain undisturbed. But tonight, something was different. As she made her way to the oak tree, she could feel a strange energy in the air. The wind had changed direction, and the leaves rustled in a way that was not quite natural. There was an unfamiliar stillness, a feeling that something or someone was approaching. She quickened her pace, her heart beginning to beat a little faster. She reached the oak and sat at its base, closing her eyes to listen more intently. The whispers had become louder, and Lena could sense a presence, an old, familiar energy that she had not felt in many years. Lena's hands rested on her knees as she breathed deeply, letting the calmness of the night fill her. Then, in the distance, she saw a light flicker. It was not the soft glow of the village lanterns, nor was it the silver light of the moon. It was a golden glow, shimmering and delicate, weaving its way through the trees toward her. The light was gentle, yet it carried with it an undeniable weight. Something important was coming. Without warning, the figure of an old man appeared before her. He was dressed in robes of deep blue, his face partially hidden beneath a hood. His presence was not unsettling, though it was certainly unexpected. The golden light seemed to emanate from him, wrapping around him like a veil. Lena stood, her heart skipping a beat. She had seen this figure before, only in her dreams. The dream weaver, the guardian of all dreams. "You've been waiting for me," he said softly, his voice like the rustling of the leaves. Lena nodded. "Yes, I felt your presence. It's been years since you've come to visit the village." The dream weaver smiled, his expression kind and knowing. "There is a shift in the dreams tonight. Something is coming, and it is not a peaceful dream. It is a nightmare that has broken free from the boundaries of the dream world. It must be contained before it spreads." Lena felt a wave of concern wash over her. The village had never known nightmares like the one the Dreamweaver spoke of. "What can I do?" The Dreamweaver extended his hand to her. "Come with me. We must face it together." Chapter 2: The Nightmare Unbound. Lena followed the Dreamweaver through the forest, the golden light illuminating the path ahead. The air felt thick, as though the very earth itself was holding its breath. The trees around them seemed to part, creating a narrow path that led to the heart of the forest, where a small clearing awaited them. In the center of the clearing was a dark mist, swirling like a storm in the middle of a calm sea. The nightmare had taken form, and it was trying to escape. It writhed and shifted in the air, a black cloud of shadows and despair, its presence pulling at Lena's very soul. The Dreamweaver stood tall before the cloud, raising his hands in the air. "This is the work of the Dream Shaper, a being that manipulates the very fabric of dreams. It feeds on fear, on doubt, and on the nightmares of those who slumber. But tonight, we will stop it." Lena watched as the Dreamweaver began to weave his hands through the air, shaping the golden light that surrounded them. The light stretched and twisted, forming into delicate threads that spun into a brilliant web in the air. The nightmare howled as the threads of light neared it, its form convulsing and breaking apart. Lena stepped forward, her heart steady now. "I can help," she said, her voice clear in the stillness of the night. I've been guarding dreams for so long. I know how to weave them. Let me do it." The dream weaver turned to her, his eyes glowing with recognition. "Yes, Lena, it's time." With that, Lena stepped into the clearing, the golden light enveloping her. She reached out to the dark cloud, her hands trembling as she wove the threads of light into the nightmare. The cloud fought back, pulling at the threads, but Lena was steadfast. She called upon the peace of the village, the laughter of the children, and the deep, restful sleep of the elders. As she wove, the nightmare began to shrink, dissolving into the light. With one final pull, the nightmare was gone, leaving only the soft glow of the forest and the peaceful silence of the night. The dream weaver nodded, his face filled with pride. "You are ready, Lena. You have become a true sentinel of the dreams." Lena smiled, feeling the weight of the night's work lift from her shoulders. The forest seemed calmer now, and the golden light faded into the horizon, leaving only the quiet whisper of the wind. Chapter 3: The Dawn of a New Dream. As Lena walked back through the quiet village, the soft sounds of night slowly faded into the background. The streets, once blanketed in shadow, were now touched by the first light of dawn. The stars, which had twinkled like ancient sentinels in the sky, were dimming, making way for the gentle glow of the morning. The soft breeze, still cool from the night, brushed against her skin, and for a moment, Lena felt as if the very earth was sighing in relief, content with the peaceful work that had been done. The dream weaver's golden light had faded into the distance, leaving behind only the faintest glow, like the afterimage of a beautiful dream. The clearing in the forest was now peaceful, the swirling nightmare that had once threatened to overtake the village vanishing like mist before the sun's first rays. Lena's heart still beat with the excitement and weight of the night's events. She had never faced a nightmare of such magnitude before, and yet, with the dream weaver's guidance, she had managed to weave the light and dispel the darkness. It had been a trial, but in the process, she had learned something about herself, about the strength and purpose she carried as the nighttime sentinel. Her path took her through the winding streets, where the first stirrings of life began to awaken. From the windows of the homes, she could see the flickering of candles being lit, the soft sounds of families stirring, beginning their morning routines. The village, which had slept peacefully through the night, was now alive with the sound of birdsong and the quiet footsteps of its people. Lena paused for a moment at the village square, her eyes drawn to the familiar stone fountain in the center. The water shimmered in the early light, and she could hear the soft trickle of water running over the rocks. She walked over to the fountain, her fingers grazing the cool stone. There, she found herself thinking back to the days when she was younger, when she had first learned of her role as the nighttime sentinel. Her mother, a woman with gentle hands and a heart full of love, had been the previous guardian of the village's dreams. Lena could still remember the way her mother would stand beneath the oak tree each night, her arms raised to the heavens, as though she were weaving the very fabric of the dreams that would blanket the village. And Lena, though she was just a child at the time, had always felt the pull of the night, the same pull that had drawn her mother and now drew her. It was in that very moment, standing by the fountain as the village slowly woke around her, that Lena understood the true nature of her calling. The role of the nighttime sentinel was not simply to watch over the village while it slept. It was about more than protecting dreams. It was about understanding them, weaving them together, and keeping the balance between the worlds of wakefulness and slumber. As the sky lightened, Lena decided to visit the oak tree one last time before the sun fully rose. The path was familiar to her, and she walked with a peaceful, meditative gait. The air had cooled even further, and the soft murmur of the wind in the trees filled the silence, offering her a sense of comfort as she approached the sacred space. The oak, ancient and towering, seemed to hum with life, as though it had known the events of the night and was content. Lena stood before it for a long moment, allowing herself to soak in the quiet power of the tree. This oak had witnessed centuries of dreams, both peaceful and troubled. It was the very heart of the village, where the boundaries between the waking world and the realm of dreams were thinnest. As she stood there, Lena felt a presence behind her, a warmth as if a soft hand rested on her shoulder. She turned, and there, in the glimmering light of dawn, stood the Dreamweaver once more. His robes were now a soft shade of silver, his features calm and knowing. "You've done well," he said softly, his voice like the rustling of leaves in the wind. "The village is safe. You have proven that you are ready to carry the mantle of the nighttime sentinel." Lena smiled, though there was a sense of quiet awe in her expression. "I didn't do it alone. You were there to guide me." The Dreamweaver nodded, his expression filled with kindness. "It is true, but your strength comes from within. You have always had it, Lena. The night calls to you, and in turn, you answer. That is your gift." Lena felt a warmth in her chest, as though the Dreamweaver's words were a deep affirmation of her purpose. She had always known that she was meant to watch over the village, but now she understood the depth of her responsibility. It wasn't just about peace or protection. It was about the balance of all things, the connection between dreams and reality. "You are the guardian of the night, Lena," the Dreamweaver continued. "The dreams that flow through the village belong to you. But remember, there will be times when even the brightest light is challenged by the darkness. When that happens, you must stand firm." Lena nodded, her gaze focused on the Dreamweaver's glowing form. "I will. I promise." With those words, the Dreamweaver began to fade, his light becoming softer and softer until it was no more than a faint glow in the distance. Lena stood alone before the oak tree once again, but this time she didn't feel alone at all. The village, the trees, the earth beneath her feet, all of it seemed to hum with a quiet song, a song of connection and peace. The first rays of sunlight broke over the horizon, and the village was bathed in the warm light of morning. Lena closed her eyes for a moment, taking in the beauty of the moment. She had done her work. The village was safe, and its dreams were protected. She had carried the weight of the night, and now it was time for the world to wake. And yet, she knew that the night would come again, as it always did, and when it did, she would be ready. For Lena was the nighttime sentinel, the guardian of dreams, and she would forever stand watch over the slumbering world, ensuring that peace and tranquility reigned in the realm of sleep. With a final glance at the oak tree, Lena turned and made her way back to the village, where the day awaited, knowing that in the quiet hours of the night, when the world rested, she would once again be the protector of dreams. Chapter 4: The Weaving of the Stars. Days turned into weeks, and Lena fell deeper into the rhythm of her role as the nighttime sentinel. Each night, as the world around her fell into slumber, she would stand under the ancient oak tree, her arms outstretched, and the dreams of the village would begin to weave themselves in the sky above her. She had learned much from the Dreamweaver's teachings, Now, she understood that her task was not just to protect the village from nightmares, but to guide the dreams themselves, to keep them balanced, and to ensure the people's sleep remained undisturbed. The nights, once quiet and still, now felt different to Lena. There was a rhythm in the air, a pulse, as though the very world was breathing in time with her. She could feel the dreams of the villagers, faint ripples of thought and emotion that hung in the air like delicate threads. As the Sentinel, Lena had the power to guide them, to ensure that the dreams remained peaceful, nurturing the sleepers who trusted her with their rest. One evening, as Lena stood in the clearing, a strange sensation overcame her, a ripple in the air, a shift that disturbed the peaceful hum of the night. The stars above her began to flicker, their light dimming, their glow flickering in an unsettling way. She frowned, her brow furrowing as she scanned the sky. The ripples of dreams around her had become erratic, tangled, like threads of a tapestry that had been pulled too tightly. Something was wrong. For the first time in her life, Lena felt the weight of the burden of her role. She was not just a passive observer of the dreams, but an active participant, a weaver. The nighttime sentinel was not simply a protector. She was a creator, shaping the very fabric of sleep and dreams. And now, there was a disturbance in that fabric. Something dark was pulling at the edges of the dream world, threatening to unravel everything. Lena closed her eyes, focusing deeply, letting herself sink into the fabric of the night. Her senses stretched out, seeking the source of the disturbance.
What she felt was unlike anything she had encountered before. A coldness, a dark energy that threatened to swallow the warmth of the dreams. In that instant, she understood that this wasn't just a passing disturbance. Something had entered the dream world, something that didn't belong. A deep chill ran through her, but Lena was not one to be deterred by fear. With determination, she stood tall, her arms raised as if to embrace the night. She began to weave. The threads of the dreams around her shifted in response. Lena's hands moved in a fluid, graceful motion as she gathered the delicate strands of light and warmth, intertwining them to create a protective shield around the village's dreams. The stars began to shine brighter as she worked, and the fabric of the night rippled, as if the universe itself was taking a deep breath. Her mind connected with the dreams of the villagers. She could see them now, resting peacefully in their homes, unaware of the disturbance that had briefly threatened their slumber. But Lena knew better. She could feel the edge of darkness creeping in, pulling at the edges of the dream world. And so, she wove. Slowly, the disturbance began to recede, the coldness fading as Lena's light pushed it back. Her hands were tired, but she refused to stop. The darkness, whatever it was, could not have the dreams. Not tonight. With one final, decisive motion, Lena released the threads, and the dream world settled back into place. The stars above her flickered once more, glowing brightly, and the air around her grew warm again. The danger had passed, but Lena knew it was not gone for good. As the dawn began to creep over the horizon, painting the sky in soft hues of gold and pink, Lena felt a deep sense of relief wash over her. But she also felt a new understanding. Her role as the nighttime sentinel was not just about guiding dreams, it was about protecting them from the dark forces that sought to invade. And so, with the first light of morning, Lena made a vow. She would continue to stand guard over the dreams of the village, no matter what it took. Chapter 5. The Dark Stranger. Lena's resolve was stronger than ever. The disturbance that had shaken the very fabric of the dream world had been pushed back, but it was far from over. For days, Lena continued her nightly ritual, watching over the village, weaving the dreams, ensuring that peace was maintained. But in the quiet moments between her duties, she could feel the presence of something, or someone, watching her. It was not the dream weaver's comforting presence, nor the warmth of the stars that had always accompanied her. This was something different, something dark, watching from the edges of her vision, a shadow that she could not explain. One evening, as Lena stood at the base of the oak tree, the sensation grew stronger. The air around her seemed to pulse with tension, and the hairs on the back of her neck stood up. She turned sharply, but the clearing was empty. The stars twinkled brightly above, the night serene and still, but Lena knew that something was amiss. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing thoughts. She was the Sentinel. She could face whatever came, but this felt different. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet shifted. The very air around her seemed to thrum with an unnatural energy. And then, out of the shadows, a figure appeared, a tall, cloaked figure whose face was hidden beneath the hood. The air grew cold, the stars dimming as the figure stepped forward. Lena's heart raced. She could feel the darkness swirling around the figure, creeping closer to her, suffocating the space between them. The figure spoke, and its voice was like gravel scraping across stone, a whisper that seemed to come from the depths of the earth itself. "So, you are the nighttime sentinel," it said, "the guardian of dreams." Lena stood her ground, her heart steadying. "I am." The figure laughed, a hollow, empty sound. "You do not understand the true weight of your role, little guardian. You are but a puppet, weaving dreams at the whim of those who control the night." Lena narrowed her eyes, her fingers twitching, ready to summon the light of the stars if needed. "Who are you?" she demanded. The figure did not answer immediately. Instead, it stepped closer, the darkness swirling around it like a cloak. "I am the one who controls the nightmares," it said softly, "the one who feeds on the fear of the dreamers. And now, I have come for yours." Lena's breath caught in her throat. She could feel the dark energy pressing against her, threatening to overwhelm her, but she stood tall, her voice unwavering. "I will not let you. The dreams of this village are protected." The figure smiled, a cold, cruel smile. "We shall see." And with that, the figure disappeared into the shadows, leaving Lena alone in the clearing, her heart pounding in her chest. But now, more than ever, she knew what she had to do. The true battle had begun. Chapter 6. The Battle of Light and Shadow. The next few days felt like a blur for Lena. She could feel the darkness lurking at the edges of the dream world, waiting, watching for the right moment to strike. The peaceful nights she had known were now filled with an ever-present tension, the shadows creeping into the dreams she carefully wove. She had always known that her role as the nighttime sentinel would be challenging, but never had she felt the weight of it so strongly. Each night she stood before the oak tree, her hands raised, ready to weave the dreams. But this time, the task felt heavier. The threads of the dreams felt different, tangled, frayed, like they were being pulled in opposite directions. And the stars above her? They flickered erratically, as if something was disrupting their natural rhythm. Lena spent hours each night trying to stabilize the dreams, but the darkness was relentless. The cold figure, the one who had revealed itself to her, was still out there, lurking. Its presence was like a weight on her chest, suffocating her every time she tried to connect with the dreams. One night, as Lena stood at the clearing, her thoughts heavy with worry, she felt a shift in the air. It was as if the very night itself was holding its breath. And then she saw it, the figure standing at the edge of the trees, its cloak flowing like a river of shadows. The battle was about to begin. Lena did not hesitate. She called upon the light of the stars, her arms raised high as the glow around her intensified. "I will protect the dreams," she said, her voice filled with the determination she had carried within her since the beginning. "You cannot win." The figure chuckled darkly, stepping closer. "We shall see, little Sentinel. We shall see."